Hi, my name is Arini Vlotman, and I am from Always Be You. I'm grateful to be doing this training video today on a topic that is incredibly close to my heart, and I'm really passionate about it, and you'll see why in a few minutes. But just to tell you more about myself, I am from Johannesburg, South Africa. I'm a life skills facilitator, a life coach, an LMS project manager. I deliver training. I'm a speaker. So I do a number of things, but it's all centered around life skills, soft skills, those skills that you need to help you through your everyday life, whether it's work or personal. Today, I'm talking about the art of self coaching. Now, self coaching is something I usually take my clients through at the end of their coaching experience with me. So, once we've achieved what they've set out to achieve, I usually give them some sort of self coaching techniques that they can practice because they won't be seeing me as often. And I realized that during the past year with the pandemic and the changes in workspaces, that there really is a need for people to understand how to coach themselves and how to be aware of the fact that they can coach themselves. So you don't necessarily have to go to a professional if you don't have the time or the resources. For example, there are a few simple ways that you can practice self-coaching that's easy once you understand the topic, right? Once you understand the concept, which I'll take you through, you'll realize that it's actually much easier than you first thought. I'm just going to share my screen quickly. Got a nice PowerPoint presentation that I'd like to go through. So I'm calling this the art of self-coaching because it is an art form once you get it down pat. It's something that you can develop and grow, and it will look good. It will make you look better, make you feel better, because success ultimately will increase your confidence, right? And that's what we're going for. When we look at any concept like self coaching or EQ or any sort of personal development, it's really important to realize that it's internal. So it's about the self first. And that's why self coaching, right? We start out in a position where we don't know everything. We are learning, we're growing, we're developing, whether as a child or as an adult, a teenager, no matter how old you are. Every step that you take involves a learning process. And from that learning process, you grow, right? You develop, whether it is learning a new skill or working in a new position. The concepts are the same. And then we ultimately develop what skill we've learned or something that we are learning and growing towards. We want to make sure that we are achieving something at the end of the day, right? And this is all about focusing on the self. So it's all about you and how you are going to go through the learning, growing, and developing process with self coaching. The reason I also am discussing this topic is people are working in a very, very different world than we were last year, right? If you just think about early 2020, the term agile was something that was shared in like a project management space. Now we literally have to work with agility. We have to be flexible. We have to be able to bounce around from one working space to another. You have to do training videos via Zoom, for example, or MS Teams. So the way we work has changed, and our emotional capacity to deal with certain things have changed. Either it's increased in some cases or it's decreased in other places. For example, I am a very social person, so I like working with people. I like talking to people. I like engaging with people. With me forced to have been at the back of a screen all day, every day for a year was really taxing on me. And I could have Zoom meetings, of course, and I have training and I see my clients via my laptop, but it's not the same. And I realized after a couple of months that I was taking strain on this. And I had to stop and ask myself, what was going on? Why? I knew what was going on around me, but what was going on in the self? and I had to think about it. And we'll come to self-reflection a little bit later. So focusing on the self and self-coaching is a concept that is basically showing you or guiding you, right? It's going to assist you in your personal growth and your personal development, but you have to focus on it. You have to work with intention. And for anybody who's known me or seen any of my videos or attended my training, you know that I always emphasize working with intent when it comes to the self or with anything actually. But personal growth is only possible if you focus, right? If you look at what you need to do. So, self coaching is the personal practice of focusing on guiding individual growth and setting and achieving goals. That's incredibly important because if you had to come to me, I would tell you, okay, what is it that you want to achieve, whether it's in your career or your personal life? Let's work on a goal. How are we going to achieve that goal? What are the steps? Do we have a timeline? And how are we going to know that we've achieved it? Right? So in this way, you are now holding yourself accountable and you're telling yourself, okay, I'm going to do this. This is something that I'm going to work towards and I'm going to try my best to do it. And then all together, we're going to be creating and increasing a self-awareness. Now, self-awareness is something that we all think we know, but we've all got blind spots about ourselves. We may not completely be open with ourselves or honest with ourselves. So when you are self-coaching and you going through this process, you need to be honest with yourself and decide, is this goal something that I'm actually going to work on? How am I going to hold myself accountable? If there isn't a life coach there to hold you accountable and touch base with you and motivate you, what are you going to do in that instance? So you have to ask yourself, what can I do here and now, starting from any time? And it doesn't have to be a formal process. It obviously is easier if you write it down. We know, and I say this all the time, write things down. We will forget. We're human beings. Things go through our minds all the time. And if we don't write it down, we won't retain the information that we want to be telling ourselves. So, what can I do here and now to change my negative habits, perhaps, and achieve my goals? That's simply what you need to ask yourself. This is how you start the process of self-coaching. And when you are practicing this, you will realize how much easier it becomes. It will become a habit and you'll start doing it without even necessarily thinking about it. So you may need to refer to your notes or your journal or your spreadsheet or whatever you wherever you jot your um, thoughts down, but eventually you'll be doing it without even realizing it. And that's what I love about self-coaching, is that concept is once it's learned, you don't lose it. So you're probably asking yourself, even though I've been talking about this for 5 minutes, is why should we practice self-coaching? What's the point? Why should I spend time on doing something? Well, how is it going to benefit me? And the first thing is increase self-awareness. I mentioned that a little bit earlier, but something that I've seen, and there's so many results and articles about it, is increased self-awareness increases your success in no matter what area you choose. Once you know more about yourself and how you feel about something, how you do something, what you like, what you don't like, what the best space it is for you to function in, you are better able to make decisions. And that's ultimately what goal setting is, right? It's making decisions and making sure that you take the actions to achieve those goals. So increased self-awareness equals to increased success. If I just put it simply, once you know more about yourself and how you function as an individual, because remember, we go through phases. We grow, we learn, we develop. We learn, we grow, we develop. We may regress in terms of skills, maybe, if we haven't been practicing something. But in terms of maturity and EQ, the more we practice something, the more increased our self-awareness will be. And this is something you can start today. You've probably been doing it for a while and you don't even know it, especially if you are interested in training and subject matters like this. So you will increase your self-awareness, and it will equal to increased success. The next thing is intentful achieving of goals. Okay. I talked about intent, and intent is doing something for a reason and knowledgeably. So you are making this decision today, and you are going to follow through with this decision, and you are going to achieve your goals. And I cannot explain to you how easy something becomes once you decide you're going to do it. Once you've decided you are going to do it, you are halfway through the process already. And once you decide to do it, you are mentally preparing yourself for already achieving that goal. Isn't that brilliant? I mean, imagine if we could do that with everything. The mind is a funny thing sometimes. So it's almost like we're tricking ourselves into achieving our goals. Explore your beliefs and values. Now, when I first started the concept of learning about life coaching, I was on one side of the chair. So I was the coachee. And my coach, and I've even done this during when I attended training, people try and get you to explore your belief system, your value system. And sometimes you realize that what you think are your values are not actually that. So you need to put a list down. What are my values? What do I value in my life? There's the generic honesty, integrity, trustworthiness, building relationships, family, having a successful business, uh, gaining monetary independence, those type of things. You have to write it down. And let me tell you why. Is because once you write it down, you'll realize that some things you thought were important to you when you are given a choice. If I have to give you 10 values to choose, you'll think all 10 are impossible to choose. But if I force you to, you will have to. And that's how you realize what your values are. And this increases your self awareness, which helps you achieve your goals. I've done this exercise before. And what I will do is I'm going to provide a little sheet where you can, with a list of values, just to make it easier for you. And you choose what your values are. And I'm going to ask you to narrow it down until you find three. When I first did this exercise, it took me about 2 or 3 days, right? I was sitting with it and I was like, okay, oh my gosh, I really want to grow my career. But if it means growing my career and deciding between my family, I'm going to choose family. But I need to be able to support my family. And to support my family, I need to grow my career. So you learn to think about what your priorities are and move forward with that. The last one, and I think this is really important, is increased self-confidence. And there's a host of reasons, but basically, once you are on a path where you are developing yourself and you are working towards something, every time you achieve a goal, no matter how big or small, your self confidence levels increase. Your confidence in your ability to do something, to achieve a goal increases. And that comes out in the way you behave and how you deal with people and how you speak with people. It really is something. And I mean, as professionals, I don't have to talk to you about why you need to increase your self-confidence, but this is just an added benefit. If you are not, if you feel a bit shaky in some areas of your life, by practicing self-coaching, you'll find that you are increasing your self-confidence in that part of your life. And ultimately, once you achieve that goal, you will be a much happier person. And I mean, why do we do anything? To be happy and successful, right? So that's the why. I want you to take you through something that is really important when it comes to self-coaching. Is we normally think about negative cycles, right? You get into a situation and it just leads to one negative event after another, one bad result after another. Self-coaching flips that around and puts you in positive cycles. And now I have to tell you this, a positive cycle is much easier to function than a negative cycle. A negative cycle is much easier to break than a positive cycle, because our brain capacity and the way, as human beings, the way we are built, if I can call it that, is to think in the positive. We want to do that, but our surroundings, society, everything we expose ourselves to flips that around. So if you start thinking in positive cycles, you'll continue to do it because it's easier for your brain to focus on the positive. So your thoughts become your actions and become your behaviors. If you are actively focusing your thoughts and you are changing your thought patterns, you are constantly challenging yourself, right? And once you think about it, you will start to do things that will action those positive thought patterns. So, for example, working towards your goals will give you a sense of fulfillment and purpose. So, that's part of the actioning your positive thoughts. So, you're now going through the cycle. And then your behavior changes. You may not even realize it, but if you're thinking and doing something, you're behaving in a certain way, right? And these thoughts and actions will result in a behavioral change. And the cycle goes on. And the thing I love about this is that you will see it so easily. People will actually tell you, give you feedback with if they see you in a positive cycle or behaving in a positive manner. And I always say you become who you want to be. Right? A year ago, I decided I wanted to become a learning management specialist. So I had plenty of experience and I've worked on systems before. However, in order to become a specialist, I needed to create a whole lot of action plans for myself to achieve that goal. I have now achieved that goal, or I'm almost there. I'm a lot closer to it than I was a year ago. And people tell me this. It comes out in the way I speak, in the meetings that I have, in the clients that I deal with. They know and are assured of my knowledge because I've increased my technical abilities, and it comes out in my behavior. That's just a very small example and a very technical example, but you'll see that it will work and people will notice it. So you'll notice it. And that's the thing about self-development is once you become more self-aware, and once you start intentfully doing all of these things, your behavior changes and people will change around you, or they'll change their behavior towards you. I talked a little bit about the mind earlier on, and this is something that is tied up to CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy. And I'm also a firm believer in that because I've used it. I've used it on clients, I use it in my training, and it does work. But for people who, and the reason I include neuroplasticity is some people, they're like, Arini, you're telling me all of this is going to happen, but I want hard facts. I want to see the results. I want to see something. Don't just tell me my behavior is going to change. What does that mean? But basically, when we are going through processes like self-coaching and any sort of interpersonal related training or development, we are changing our neural pathways. We are learning to behave in a different way. So if you think about it, there's a whole lot of roads in your mind. Each pathway is a road, and it branches and it branches and it branches and it branches. Okay. And the more you use that road, the more ingrained it becomes and the harder it becomes. If you choose today not to use that road, you're going to choose another road, taking another route to work today, and you stop using the other route, it's going to disappear over time. And that is what we want to do, is we want to change one behavior from a negative behavior into a positive behavior, or we want to create a whole new road for ourselves. And the thing is, with building anything, it takes time, but neural pathways, right? Once the idea is there, once that first thought is there, that pathway already starts to build. All you need to do is reinforce it. And by doing that, you need to action and you need to practice and you need to continue working on this pathway until it becomes a habit and you're doing it without even thinking it. I've heard often that it takes 21 days to break a habit, but it takes even less to make a habit. Making a new habit is easier than breaking an old one. I kid you not, try it. Right? In the morning, what is the first thing you do? So the first thing I do is my alarm goes off, roll over, get my phone, and I'm like, oh, I've got a message and I got an email and I got a this and I got a that. And I end up lying in bed for half an hour in a rabbit hole. And I end up being late or I'm distracted or whatever the case is. So I decided I will no longer look at my phone first thing in the morning. When my alarm goes on, I will get out of bed and I'll start my morning and look at my phone 15 minutes or half an hour later, whatever. And the first 2 days, it was automatic. But I thought to myself, before I go to sleep, I'm not going to look at my phone in the morning. And oh, this is so hard. I thought to myself, I can't do it, can't do it, but I'm going to try. The first 2 days, it was intentful. So I'd roll over, pick up my phone, put the alarm off, unlock it, and oh, wait, I'm not supposed to be looking at my phone, right? The first morning, I was actually in a WhatsApp already before I remembered. Put the phone down, carried on with my morning. The second morning, got up, I hadn't opened my phone or the notifications, and I'd reminded myself, oh, not looking at the phone, put it down. The third morning, rolled over, alarm went on, put the alarm off, got out of bed, and halfway to my room door, I was like, oh, wait, I didn't look at my phone, right? It bothered me a little bit for a few minutes because it was such an ingrained habit. Then I went along with my morning, checked my phone a little bit later, and I was fine. The world didn't explode. I was actually perfectly fine. And the fourth, fifth, sixth morning, ever since then, I've been doing it and it hasn't been a problem. So I reminded myself about it. I stopped what I was doing as soon as I realized I was doing it. And then I changed that neural pathway. So now instead of looking at my phone first thing in the morning, my first thought is getting out of bed and starting my morning routine. And somewhere in there comes the thought of looking at my phone, right? Unless there's something that I need to see on my phone, but that is a choice that I make, intent. So I tell myself, I'm going to look at my phone because I heard a notification or I'm expecting an email, or I know a client was struggling with something yesterday and they may have WhatsApped me, but it's all about choice. So when we are looking at how agile our brains are, think about the fact that it's easier to create a new habit than anything else. And the concept of once you are, I think it's over the age of 25, your brain shrinks. No, your brain is agile. You can use it to the best of its ability. You just need to practice. So that's the little bit of science behind the concept that I'm teaching, which is self-coaching and changing your behaviors. I hope that makes sense. And if anybody has any questions or wants to talk about this anymore, contact me and we can have a good discussion. Okay, I've put together an action plan. It's really simple, it's really easy, and it's something that you'll remember as you're working through. So as you're changing these neural pathways. The first one I touched on is self-reflection. Okay, what do I want in the here and now? What do I want to achieve? What are my goals? And it doesn't have to be as extreme as what is a goal. It can be something like I am feeling incredibly angry or irritable. Stop, pause, and self reflect. Why am I feeling this way? What is triggering me? Okay. The moment you stop, you're increasing your self awareness and you're giving yourself time to think about the circumstances of your situation. So I always, the stop, pause, continue is something that I say we practice in everything. But in terms of this, it aligns to self-reflection. You could write it down. I often use voice notes, create voice notes for myself so I don't forget it, and then I listen to it a little bit later on. And it makes so much more sense because I've had time to think about it a little bit more. Second thing, write it down in any way or form. You could record it in a voice note, you could record a video for yourself, a vlog, you could write down on a pen and piece of paper, type it out, whatever the case is, write it down, because that's another thing that your brain uses. It wants to see words. Once we see things, we retain information. That's visual learning. If you're an auditory learner, you could hear yourself on a voice note and you'll remember it. But writing it down is quick and simple, and it actually takes you back to the moment when you were thinking about it. You'll kind of remember how you were feeling when you read it back to yourself. And then the third thing is seek feedback, right? This is easier said than done. So I always advise to go to people you trust and that have your best interests at heart. So in order to self-coach or to increase your self-awareness, you have to increase your awareness of people around you. And once you learn how to trust people, they can give you feedback so that you close your blind spot a little bit. And that's the Johari window. And that is a part of yourself that you may not know, but somebody else knows about you. So if you ask for feedback, I want to become, by the end of the month, I want to start a training course, or I want to complete a training course. So I need to find the type of training that I want to do. I need to make sure that I book myself on the course, I attend it, and I try and complete it by a certain date. So while you are going through the course, for example, the course is self-coaching, right? And you are in a position where you are trying to change your neural pathways, or you want feedback on whether your behavior has changed. Tell somebody, say, listen, I'm going through this process. I want to make sure that I change this behavior. Can you tell me how I'm doing? Have you seen a difference in my behavior? Is there something that I should know about myself? Do you see something that I can, maybe I'm not seeing? I want to achieve this goal and I've got A, B, and C to do. Somebody else's perspective, somebody you trust, right? It's important that you trust this person, can help you. Or you can do it in informal ways. In the workplace, for example, if we are working, I often work with clients that are in a completely different time zone from me, in another country, and I ask them for feedback. So we had this session at it was 9 o'clock in the morning for you, and it was the afternoon for me. I'm a morning person. How did the session feel for you? Right? Ask for feedback. Ask for, because it will also reinforce what you're learning, and it will tell you that there's been a change in your behavior. We can't work in silos. As much as this is about the self, we have to realize that we are reliant on the people around us. And then the last thing you don't even have to remember is practice makes perfect. Remember those neural pathways, the more you focus on them, right, the stronger and harder they become until you don't even need to think about it. Just be intentful until you've gained enough practice and it becomes a habit, and you move on to something else. So you can take this action plan and implement it in small ways. Perhaps you want to skip, you've already done the self-reflection, so you already know what you want to do. You already know what you want to achieve. Then you can go to the goal setting or the writing it down part. Perhaps you've done those two, but you're not quite sure how you're doing or whether there's actually been a change that anybody can see. Then you seek feedback. Once you've done those 3 steps, you practice, practice, practice. But you can go back. You can go back to seeking feedback. If you decide that your process has changed or you're trying something and it's not working, go back to your notes and write something else down, and then do some reflection. Think about it. Okay, I did X, Y, and Z. X didn't work so well. Let me try something else. And this happens all the time in the workspace. We actually don't realize it. But in our personal space, because it's a little bit less tangible, it's harder to see. So try and action all of these steps, and it will help. And what you can do is you can seek feedback from me, for example. So tell me, Arini, I've watched your video on self-coaching. I actually started doing this. What do you think? What should I do? You know, you could go to somebody like that, somebody that doesn't know you personally, and you may trust them in a different way. The point is that everything that we're doing in this action plan has to result in a positive change in behavior. If it doesn't, we need to go back and reassess what went wrong. Right? We want to keep that positive cycle going for as long as possible. I want to give you a quick example. So if you want to practice assertiveness, for example, and this is something that people in the support space, professionals in the support space, or that are now working remotely struggle with. Okay, I need to make sure that I get my point across in a way that's professional, that doesn't impact somebody's feelings, that doesn't take somebody's rights away from them. But at the same time, I need to get my point across. How am I going to change my behavior? How am I going to practice assertiveness? So I'm going to do some self-reflection, right? Why do I need to be assertive? And in what space? Am I talking about at home? Am I talking about at work? Am I talking about both? Is it just a skill that I want to learn? My goal is to learn and practice assertiveness. So you go through all of these processes and then feedback. Has somebody said something? You don't stand up for yourself, maybe. Or perhaps you're too aggressive in meetings and you want to move from aggressive to assertive, or you want to move from passive to assertive. Whatever the case is, you will probably know that this is something you need to work on if you get feedback while you're doing it. And then look at it, test it out in your next meeting, in your next communication. If it can be something simple like an email, I always teach people to use action words, right? Not passive words in any communication. So the good day, please see attached. If you could possibly assist me with this by Friday, I'd really appreciate it. You could practice being assertive. Good day. This is the document that you need to work on this project. Please give it back to me on Friday or give me feedback if you're unable to do it. There you go, and see how it works. It may make you slightly uncomfortable, but once you do it again, it becomes easier the next time and easier again, and you've reached a stage where you're in a positive cycle. That is very concise and easy process for self-coaching. There's lots of things that we can discuss about coaching and self-coaching, but this is just something that I want to give you to take away to work at immediately after you watch this. You can try this out and tell me, perhaps you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I've got a page, a page on Facebook. You can connect with me, tell me what your thoughts are, and try and practice it. It's really easy. It will benefit you, and it's something that you can use now, tomorrow, 6 months from now, 10 years from now. It's something you can teach the people around you to do. It's something you can use if you're coaching or mentoring or managing somebody. It's something you can use across any time or space. And I think I firmly know, I firmly believe that self-coaching is a skill that we can all use to benefit each other. Thank you so much. Please connect with me. I'd love to hear from you. And like I said, my name is Arini Vlotman. And remember to always be you.